Alright YouTubers, welcome to my channel. This is my F-150 2010. It runs great. I mean, it just got everything done on it. Got all the timing chain guides and everything in it. Runs perfect, but you know what? When you start it up, you hear pop, 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 pop. Well, exhaust, yeah. So, you know, just real quick before we get into the intake plenum, how I took it off. The reason we've gotten to this road here is I've decided to just go ahead and pull the heads off and drill up my manifold bolt studs, because by the time you go out and buy tools, drill bits, try to figure out how to jack this thing up, get a drill bit in the center of that stud, and, you know, try to get it out, and it breaks off. You know, by the time you do all that, you can have both these heads off, and do it with the heads off. That'll make your life a lot easier, and that is one thing I've learned on this 2010. Now, some of the other Fords, it wasn't so bad because you didn't have this big old shock tower in the way. But that is another video. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to show you how to take this plenum off. It's not as bad as it looks. There are some bolts that we have to get into, and they're right down here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side. And we have 6 on this side. Now mine were pretty rusty. Let me just touch base with you real quick about this. Oops, let me back up. Here are the bolts that I took out. Now you can see a couple of these are pretty bad. I mean, these things, socket wouldn't go on there. You can get most of them with a socket, no problem, but some of them, what I did, I used a little brake line wrench like this and got in there 3/8 and got in here and actually used this. Technically this is almost a 6 point, but that's what you really need to get in here and get some of these off. You get them broke loose. Then once you get them loose, you take a little tiny 3/8 wrench and you can actually get these to a point where you start spinning them. So this here is the key. If that doesn't work, then I have this little thing here. It's pretty cool. These have been a lifesaver. You can get one of these sockets on to one of these bolts here. And I think it was the 3/8, and these actually will grip. The socket will grip this here, and it'll break these loose. Get them, at least get them started for you. You're going to replace these later. These have been a lifesaver, and they make several versions of these. So this is just how I got these bolts out. Just so you know, most of them are easy, but there's a couple in here that are a little tough. And I apologize, I'm kind of jumping around here. I just want to make sure I cover up everything. And I believe the ones that are tough is this third one right there where my finger is. Right about there. Got 1, 2, and 3. The 2 in the back aren't too bad to get. I got them with a ratcheting wrench. And the one right here is really tough to get to. It sits back in there a little ways against this plastic, so it's kind of hard to get a socket on it. That's how I used that's why I used the wrench. And everything else here, the wrench and the ratchets and the sockets, can get fairly easy. Now after I got all 6 on the other side out and all 6 of these out, and there's one back here in the back, I used ratcheting wrenches on that. If you don't know what a ratcheting wrench is, and at least if I'm using the incorrect term, it is something like this. One of these guys. Makes work a little bit easier. Just using something like this to get those bolts out, and it has made me successful in getting all these out. Now at this point, I did get all the hoses unhooked pretty easy. You got a fuel line. Oops, what about my tool there? You got a fuel line right here. Little plastic disconnect clip. Unpop that or unhook it. Some fuel lines. I went on ahead, pulled out all my coils. You don't have to do that, but I did. Wires and stuff. And they're all out on this side. Just a few hoses here. And once you get all the bolts out of this plenum, see, the problem is this thing, these runners are really high, and you just can't lift this out. It will hit this right here, the bottom of the below the glass, and it will hit the alternator, and it will hit this little water jacket that goes across here. You can see almost ready to come out, but not quite. So what we got to do, go ahead and get the alternator out of the way. And there's 4 bolts, I believe, on this water jacket that goes across here once we get this stuff out of the way. This will come right out. It's fairly simple. And then all I have to do is take off the pulley, the front cover, get the chains out of the way, and then start working on the heads, pulling those off. The manifold on this side I got off. Let me just kind of deviate from the point here of the video. This side, I got all the bolts out except the one right here. And it took me 2 days to figure out how to get in there, and I got in there with the drill bit. And of course the drill bit went sideways and drilled into the head. So this is why I'm going to take the head off. This was the only bolt on this side that is not right. The other side I haven't touched. I am just going to do that with the heads off. So having said that, the manifold is off on this side, and it came off fairly easy. I don't know, maybe you're doing some exhaust work, maybe this will help you out too. And my manifold is actually sitting over here, and actually my manifold is in the truck. And by luck, if you will, I got all the studs out. Well, actually it's on the other side. All right, let me go to the other side. All right, let's do this side. And by the way, my body work turned out great. No more bad undercarriage rot there. And there's the manifold. And I actually got these bolts off. It was better to get these off. I used a deep well. Well, I used a half-inch drive to get these off. And the manifold, actually in good shape. I cleaned it up and everything, and I can reuse it now. I'm hoping I can get the other side off when I get the head off. We'll see how that goes, but just kind of give you an update on that. So for this head, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I've drained the water out of it on the bottom here. By the way, your drain plug for this is actually on the radiator right here. I've got the inner fender out, but you can still get it from underneath there. It's actually right here behind my finger. There's a little plug you turn. I get this little hose, and there's the liquid draining into the bucket. So yeah, it's a shame I have to go through all this just to drill those studs out, the manifold, but you know what? By the time you sit around and complain and wonder how you're going to do it, you can have these heads off and probably back on by the time you even attempt to get a few of these bolts out. That's just me. You guys do whatever you want, and I'll show you some other tips here a little bit later. And they do make a special tool that I bought for $80. I figured, well, you know, I'm Mr. Smarty. I'm going to make this work. But, of course, things don't work sometimes the way you want them. This works great if you have room to get in there. But the problem was, this bolt right here, well, this guy here, I used the smallest bit on it. Got in there, and I thought it was pretty centered in the head on the bolt, but I wasn't. And by the time I used the I think it's the 3/16 drill bit to get in here to drill out this stud, well, here's what happened. The bolt basically went off to the side of the stud, and here's the one I actually drilled out successfully. But if you look closely, that's not quite dead center, but you gotta get these things dead center. And be careful when you go the next step up with a bit, because if you go too big, if you're off center, this will go off to the side and it'll get in part of the block. And when you put something like this in here, it twists these out, this thing will just spin around. And that's what I have right now, the problem on that one side, on the passenger side. So these here work great. Alright, so I've gotten way off course here on how to take this plenum off, but I'm sure if you're working on your engine, you're probably wondering about your head bolts. So, like I said, this was the only one I got out. The other ones I just can't get to. So, that is that. Alright, so let's go back out here. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get the alternator out of the way, and go ahead and get this little crossover pipe here. I'm not sure what they call it, but this does not have a regular intake. It just has this plastic plenum, and the water actually goes from one head over to the other through this guy here. It's not like the older Fords, the 4.6s. So once you get all that off, you know, everything hooked unhooked, like I said, this thing will basically almost come out, but no cigar. Alright, so let's go ahead and get all this here out and get this plenum out of the way. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. Alright, moving right along, we're going to get this little bracket out of the way. I like to use spray paint just to kind of mark my bolts in places where they go, especially like the special bolt nut here, because you got a little cap there. Got riser on that, so let's get this out of the way. And now we're going to start taking our alternator off. And I've got the battery disconnected out of the way. And as for the alternator, basically 2 1/2 inch or 13 mils. Loosen these bolts up here, these studs, then just lift this out. I think I can do this with one hand. I'm going to leave the wire connected to it, and oh, she's heavy. I'm just going to set it off to the side here and leave it set in the battery tray, and hey, we're good. And boy, there's the bottom of the intake, top of the engine. So interesting to see. I don't have any leaks, which is great. And there's the head on that side that we're going to be taking off, and the head on that side. So now we'll go ahead and take this bolt here out. Now when you get all these plenum bolts out, this bolt here, you've already done part of the job. This one's out. You just got to take this one out here, and one on this side here, and we got one kind of heading right there. Then this should come loose. So let's go ahead and get those out, and those look like 8 and 10 mils. Alright, so we're moving right along, rock and roll, grooving. We got this bolt ready to come out. This one here was easy to get to on this side. This one right down here, where my finger is, I think you can kind of sit back in here. If you have a slim 10, you can get it, but I don't have a slim 10. And what I mean by slim 10, I mean something that's really slim and thin that'll fit on a little 1/4 inch little tiny drive like this. I don't have one, so best thing is just go ahead and take off your plenum here. This is the electronic throttle. I don't know if I can get this off with one finger or not, like this. I hate taking this off because you break the seal, and sometimes you can just damage it. Oh, actually, okay, the seal's in good shape. Good. All right, so we'll put this off to the side, along with these 3 bolts, which are right here. And now I can get to this one bolt that I couldn't get to a moment ago. There's all that. And there's this one right here. I think you can see it right there. Now we should be able to get that, get a socket in there. And this will come out, and we can go ahead and get this out. Alright, now we're ready to rock and roll. Let's get this one out here. Finally get this one out. And surprisingly, they're not too corroded. Sometimes these will snap off in the older vehicles. Now, I didn't have to take this one here off. These 2 here are for the thermostat. So, looking at technically, just kind of screw that back in there so we don't lose it. And this whole thing is moving. It's wiggling. And now we go ahead and just pull it out of the way. I'm going to leave the hose connected with it here for now. Not sure if this is gasket O-ring seal type, and it is a O-ring seal, and these have to be replaced. So good thing I'm taking it off. Yes, pretty bad shape. It never leaked. Now I tried to pull the plenum out over top of this, but the corners of this plastic will hit this housing here, so you don't want to take a chance of chipping this or breaking it. And now, drum roll please. Let's go ahead and get this out of here. It should come right out. And there may be a couple little tabs back here, harnesses connected still. So let me unhook those, and it should come right out. Alright. Yes, I'm out of breath. So those are off. There's these little plastic tabs right there. And now, this should come right out. I smell a little gas, so you can see it leaking. So the hose, let's pull it straight up. Alright, there it is. Wow, look at all the insulation in there. So let me see if I can just give it one big tug and set it up here on the cloth. I think we got something else still connected back here. Oh, we got this hose. I forgot to unhook. All right, let me just disconnect that little hose right here. I can probably just disconnect it right here. Well, let me unhook it. All right, there we go. That's basically like a PVC connection. All right, now let's lift it up out of here. See if I can get it with one hand. I don't know. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have to use both hands to get this out. Well, no wonder I couldn't get it out. I had to spin it around. We got one little connector right here. All right, so there we go. Now we can lift it out of here. There we go. Set it out here on the ground, kind of without breaking anything. So there it is. So give you a nice walk around here, what it looks like. You can pause the video and perhaps, you know, look at yours. And there's the back of it. Interesting. And there's where that hose was connected, and there's where the plug was on the back. So, all right, success, yay! All right, now before we wrap the video up, here's what it looks like with the plenum off. You got a couple NOx sensors here, some kind of a coolant temperature sensor there, probably. Overall, it's fairly clean in here. And really, all I have to do now is take this front cover off, get that pulley out of the way. It's a crank pulley. Unbolt these valve cover valves. Really easy to do. Get all this timing chain stuff off. Pretty easy to take off. Then we can then start bolting these heads. Like I said, this side over here, before I get this head off, the other side will come right off because the exhaust disconnected. I will have to see if I can get these stud bolts here from underneath broken loose. And by the way, I almost forgot to show you guys how I got the other side loose. It's right here. I used something like this, a swivel. And this was a 14 millimeter. That's the studs that was on my manifold. And I don't know if I kept them or not, but you're going to have to use something pretty, you know, strong. Make sure you can get up in there. Oh, by the way, here they are. That's what's left of them. But surprisingly, you know, they were in horrible shape, but I got them out, which I was really shocked. They didn't. Usually you snap off the studs, but make sure you have something heavy like that and a swivel. That's how I'm going to try to get that side off. So other than that, we got our head off. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you do, like, subscribe, and say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. If you want more video updates, you know, just comment in the section. In the comment section, I should say. It's a little hot out here. And I will put links in to my videos on this F-150. But I do have a playlist. So until then, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.